everyone. Helen Yu here at NVIDIA GTC. I'm here with Christopher Wallace, who is VP of Global Sustainability at Econet. We're going to unpack data center sustainability today. Hello, Chris. It's so nice to see you.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
I enjoyed your talk earlier. It was well received. Congratulations.
Oh yeah, thanks so much. It was interesting. So we did a CSO talk around AI and sustainability, hosted by Tanika Versi-Walker of NVIDIA, and attended by myself, Jim Andrews, who's the Chief Sustainability Officer at PepsiCo, and Kara Hurst, the Chief Sustainability Officer at Amazon. So it was a very lively, great discussion, talking about all the challenges and opportunities related to AI and how it's driving sustainability across a number of different industry verticals.
I can't wait to have a deeper dive conversation on that, right? But before we do that, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your role and what Econet does and who it serves?
Yeah, well, Equinix, we're the world's largest digital infrastructure company, really, and what we do is, we provide a neutral environment for distributed workloads, distributed AI, interconnectivity across enterprises, on-ramps to the cloud. You can almost think of us like the airport for global data.
I love that, airport with global data, wow.
Yeah, and I lead sustainability and work across all of our functions in order to make sure that we're responding to stakeholder pressures and improving sustainability related performance across our business and value chain.
Mm-hmm. Well, kudos to what you do, right? So what really inspired today's conversation is your recent blog. You talk about data-centered sustainability. Ambition is not enough, right? It requires action now. So talk to us a little bit about the gaps you see between the pledge versus the reality, and where do you see the most opportunity when it comes to sustainability?
Yeah, I would say, for years in the field of sustainability across any industry has largely been sort of arbitrary and incremental when it came to targets. I think we're in a time now where you really need to walk the talk. And that really requires, full engagement from the board level all the way through to all team members within the company. It really is a team sport.
Oh.
It is not an individual sport. Even though I lead the Sustainability Program Office at Equinix, everyone across all functions from design and construction to public policy to operations and supply chain and many more are really engaged to ensure that we're driving optimal sustainability related performance for our customers.
That's great to hear. Speaking of that, how do you hold an internal team at Econet accountable for driving sustainability?
Yeah, throughout my career, there could be a missing piece which isn't going to get you there. And that could come from the top or it could come from team members that are really on the front lines. I think you need all of the above. And you need action in the middle too. So we're fortunate, we've got active board participation of the Nom and Gov Committee of the board, which really oversees the sustainability related strategy. And our CEO, Adair Fox-Martin, is definitely dedicated and engaged in the concept of sustainability and how it drives business value for our customers. We've got a tremendous amount of enthusiasm for our folks, our team members who are on the front lines. And really, a lot of the hard work comes from the prioritization, the middle layers of the company, where managers, senior managers, and directors are focused on doubling the size of our business in the next 4 years or so, while at the same time, they've got a number of competing priorities, but are really embedding sustainability into a lot of the decision-making elements of everything that they're doing.
That's good to hear. I can relate to that. Serving as a board director for a couple companies, in the boardroom, we oftentimes talk about ESG, right? PUG, right? The power usage effectiveness oftentimes is being discussed. But in the new era, what other metrics are we supposed to look at?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. A colleague of mine recently wrote a blog, is PUE dead? And the short answer is no, it's not. It's been around for a couple of decades now, promulgated by the Green Grid and a number of foundational members. And it really remains kind of a core benchmark for our customers, for regulators and other stakeholders when it comes to measuring the efficiency of a data center environment. Now, that being said, you touched on it, Helen, there are a number of limitations. For example, as you're increasing the density of workloads, you're moving to things like liquid cooling, so on and so forth, that can sometimes artificially drive down your PUE number by impacting the denominator. So there are a number of different supplemental metrics that have been out in conversations, like water usage effectiveness, carbon usage effectiveness, efficiency or amount of work conducted per watt of electricity, a number of new supplementary metrics that I think will have to be viewed along with PUE to really understand sort of the holistic efficiency of a data center environment.
That literacy is super impactful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Well, at Jensen's keynote yesterday, he talked about this 5-layer cake of AI. Infrastructure is in the middle of this 5-layer cake, right? So tell us about your partnership with NVIDIA. How do you power that infrastructure to balance high performance infrastructure and while maintaining the sustainability?
Yeah, and I love Jensen's mental model of the 5-layer cake. And as I was, listening to him speak about, really energy being at the foundational layer, I would say as a data center company, I might even say or propose that there's an additional foundational layer. It's probably connected to Jensen's infrastructure layer, but for us, land, the dirt where we're building is really the foundational layer, right? So in terms of looking at the capacity of electricity that's available, other resources, land-related resources, water resources, that is really sort of the foundational layer.
It could be ocean someday or space.
Yeah,
right?
Well, that's what they're talking about, right?
Yes.
So that will be interesting.
Yeah.
And I would say, the way we really partner is by optimizing our layer, and increasingly, we intersect into the energy layer, the way that we partner with our energy suppliers, the way we're sort of rethinking about turning data centers into a grid asset through investments in SMR, small modular reactor nuclear technologies, the way that we're mobilizing the use of bloom fuel cells at some of our locations. I think we're really sort of rethinking partnerships around energy, and then how do we really drive IBXs, our international business exchanges, our data centers, as a grid asset versus a grid hog, if you will.
Well, that makes total sense to me. When you talk to customers who are serious about sustainability, what's driving that conversation with the customers?
Well, certainly, the AI-driven conversation has really changed. Initially, I think a lot of the conversations were around compute, hardware, and location. If an enterprise wanted a data center, they put it in their backyard or in close proximity. Today, it's really about architecture. And, we've launched a new product around the Econet AI, distributed AI hub, for instance. It really requires fabric-level architecture. I think the hidden sustainability-related cost for AI is really data transmission, moving data around from place to place. And when you've got ubiquitous footprint, 280 global locations like Econet does, and things like, the Econet distributed AI hub, you have the ability to connect to enterprises, your broader ecosystem, GPU clouds, hyperscale clouds, and really put your AI strategy into action, delivering a shorter time to value and really creating the tokens that are driving your business forward.
Well, speaking of token, right, we're going to be able to manufacture intelligence one token at a time. So that really further elevates the power of companies or innovators like Econet. Thank you for what you do. But my last question here, Chris, is what's next? Where are we going next, right? And what are you most excited about in terms of the innovation relevant to sustainability?
Yeah, Jensen's keynote yesterday, I think, was really just inspiring, and it really makes you think about the scale, the size of the opportunity, and the amount of capital inflow into AI today. I was looking at sort of is there a relevant time in history that even compares to where we are today? And I think the only one sort of in even somewhat modern history is really the railroad innovation. It was 2% of GDP at the time. And I think we're even exceeding that now in terms of AI infrastructure investment. So I think when it comes to sustainability, we need to be honest. We need to recognize that maybe there's some asynchronous movement. We're definitely in an expansion phase at the moment, and there are some really exciting sustainability related innovations that'll catch up, or maybe some breakthroughs that will occur. So for me, I think a couple of things are exciting. One is, I think with the scale and level of investment that we're seeing, that scale is going to throw gasoline on some innovation.
Yeah.
There's going to be some really cool new innovations. And the other is AI for sustainability. I was talking to Jim, Andrew, and Kara in my panel just about an hour ago, and they're talking about all of the use cases within Amazon, within PepsiCo, where AI is really driving supply chain efficiencies, transportation and distribution related efficiencies, whether it's flight pattern optimization for airlines, or whether it's dematerialization of the smart factory floor. I mean, I think those are some exciting things that AI is going to bring about a real revolution when it comes to sustainability, and it's going to be exciting to see how it develops and how it plays out.
I share your excitement. As a matter of fact, there are 110 robots here. I met 15 of them earlier today.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see the more innovation, right? And, powered by Econet and NVIDIA. So thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to checking in with you again next time when we see each other.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Great to meet you, Helen.
Yeah, likewise.